Presented by Kettlebell Kitchen. I'm your host, Tommy Marquez, joined as always by Brittany Klein. Wow. One event in for the individuals today. We're about to have another round of cuts for the teams as well. I mean, just big picture here. This is crazy.
It's almost like you're speechless, and I don't think there's anything we can say. We spoke about it this morning that a lot of our favorites are in this sport, but the best in our sport are now out of the competition.
Yeah, 4 of the 6 podium athletes from 2018 are now out of the competition, and we're not even midway through Saturday as far as events go. We're going to talk a little bit more about the individuals in just a second. Team competition just wrapped up. We're going to give you guys some updated standings as of earlier this morning after the sprint event. Mayhem Freedom was in first place overall. They had a 61-point lead over CrossFit Krypton. Invictus X, behind a strong sprint event, moved up into third, but they're 155 points back. A couple of teams like JST Compete, Exterminators were cut. Potentially Pro 1, Aliath were on the bubble heading into this next event. We're not sure how many teams are going to move on there. But just some thoughts so far from what you've seen from the team competition today.
I like the performance from Invictus X, one of my podium picks at the start of the week. They've just been consistent all week. Unfortunately, they just got capped in that last event, so I'm not sure how that will play on the standings. But CrossFit Krypton as well, a good performance, kind of eating in on CrossFit Mayhem's dominance throughout the weekend. But really, that's the story with the team competition. They just continue to show up event after event after event.
Yeah, and the point spreads are only going to get bigger. If you guys want some updated standings, be sure to head on over to morningchalkup.com. We have an awesome leaderboard for you there. Not only does it show the points, but the points differentials between placements. They're finishing every event, how many points per event they're taking home, as well as their average finish. And that might shock you a little bit because the average finish isn't indicative of placement so far this year based on the scoring differentials. We're going to move on to the women's competition right now. I got to catch my breath a little bit because those sprint events really kind of have my heart racing a little bit. We're going to take a look at your overall standings for the women after the sprint relay and heading into the cuts of just 10 athletes. Your overall leader after 6 events for the females, Tia-Claire Toomey. She's ahead of Kristen Holta. Kristen Holta is in second right now. We'll get that leaderboard updated for you. It's a little wonky right now. Kristen Holta is in second, 5 points back of Tia-Claire Toomey. Jamie Green in third, 50 points back of Tia. Kari Pierce and Haley Adams round out the top 5. But I think the big story right now is the athletes that aren't continuing on in the competition. The top 10, if you look at the leaderboard, is who is going to be competing the rest of the weekend. There are no more cuts after this. But some of the brightest names in the sport are gone. The
original daughter, Annie Flores' daughter, she finished up in 12th place. She's gone. Brooke Wells is out. Laura Horvath, your second fittest woman in 2018, is gone. Samantha Briggs, stalwarts in our sport are just left. And I was down on the sideline as they continued through these cuts, through the qualifying process. And this event was really interesting in that it narrowed down the field, so women kind of knew where they were standing and they knew where they had to be in the middle of the event. So we had tears. It was heartbreaking. We had women who were competitors who were consoling each other because they knew that they hadn't even made it through the final day of competition.
Yeah, and I'm being honest here, it just feels a little wrong that we have some of these athletes that have been in the final heat for the last 5-6 years suddenly are excluded from the competition and we're one event into Saturday. It's taken a little bit of reframing for sure.
And the scary thing is we haven't even seen a really heavy barbell, specialist weightlifters. They're not going to get a chance to show what they're made of at the CrossFit Games. It's the unknown and unknowable, but we want to see someone who is an all-rounder. And I'm with you, I feel like a lot of these women haven't gotten the chance to show what they're made of.
Yeah, a lot of gymnastics, 1 barbell in the first event. Not the widest array of tests so far, just to get down to 10 athletes, continue on for the weekend. But some names who might be happy based on their standing right now. Anna Frakow, the national champion of Greece, is in 7th right now. Bethany Shadburn, she's been dealing with some back injuries. She makes it into the top 10. Turi Helgadottir, your top daughter right now, sits in 6th. That's strong performance. In the sprint event, Haley Adams, the rookie, obviously we talked about in 5th. She's been phenomenal all weekend long, continuing a surprising performance from her in her first trip to the CrossFit Games as an individual. We're going to shift gears now, and we're going to move over to the team competition. And here are your overall standings after the sprint event for the men. Your overall leader coming into the event was Noah Olson, and he walks away as your overall leader as well. Noah Olson builds upon his lead over Matt Fraser. He sits in first place overall. Matt Fraser is in second at 65 points. The leaderboard on your screen quite hasn't updated, but we got updated standings for you as well. Fraser in second, 65 points back. Scott Panchik is in third, hanging on to a podium position, 74 points back of Noah Olson. He's only 9 points back of Fraser after Fraser struggled in the sprint with a 15th place finish. At a 20 BKG, Morad hanging around in the top 5 as well. Again, similar story with the women. Some big names got left out after this event.
And it's disappointing that the cuts kind of overshadowing that battle at the top of the leaderboard. I mean, that would be a really exciting story in our sport, the fact that someone is rivaling that Fraser, but it's really being overshadowed, like you said, by the big names who have been cut, like Patrick Vellner. He was down on the sideline and was quite critical, I guess, like we have been, of this new system. He hasn't got a chance to really show what he's made of with a barbell. He even said that we're going to have a weekend left of CrossFit, no CrossFitters, and the sprint event was, I guess, a difficult event for him to go out on. The big stories, though, for me are the Aussies, and I don't want to give all bad news, but Matt McLeod, a rookie, there in the top 10, and he makes it through. James Newbury, who's been here time and time again and on the bubble of the top performers, and he's really showing up.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the big names that are gone now. Patrick Vellner, second place last year. Lucas Hogberg, third place last year. Travis Mayer, a guy that everyone is looking at to maybe be a dark horse top 10 athlete, he's gone. Cole Sager, coming off one of his best finishes last year at the CrossFit Games, he's gone. Logan Collins, he's a top 10 athlete from a couple of years ago. He's gone as well. A lot of big names that are on the way out. You look at some of the new names in the top 10, Saxon Panchik, looks like he wasn't going to get a ticket originally, but gets it through the backfill process of some of these sanctionals. Jacob Hepner is in the top 10. Adrian Moonweiler is in the top 10 as well. Will Morad, I'm going to toot my own horn. On my podcast called He'd Be Top 10, he is. He's doing very well. But man, it is a crazy, crazy situation when you think some of the fittest men from last year just aren't going to be going forward in the competition.
And I wonder how it plays for the men who do remain. We also spoke to James Newbury on the sideline, who was critical even though he's made it through. So whether that's playing on their minds as an athlete, especially heading into the final day and a half of competition, you don't want anything else to be distracting you. But you know, your mates who compete in this sport. We spoke to Mackenzie Riley this morning about that camaraderie back in the stands. So it's just, yeah, it leaves you speechless on this big change in our sport and how this will play heading forward.
Yeah, and it's not just us that are speechless. We talked to a handful of athletes throughout the weekend. They're basically walking around looking shell-shocked because for a lot of them, you don't know the schedule, you don't know the events or how many there's going to be. Suddenly they get an announcement and all of a sudden they're expected to warm up, work out, and their weekend's over. So kind of crazy. But we did get a chance to catch up with some of those athletes after the event. I know you and Luke were down on the floor, one of our videographers, and they got some sound bites from the athletes to see how they felt following that sprint event.
I ran that second one about as fast as I ran the first one. I just tried to open it up at the beginning, and I'm not super good at the cuts, so let's see if any of these guys might be not quite as fast.
It would be nice to get into that top 10 and stay there a bit at least. It's brutal that they're cutting down to 10 now. First event Saturday, that's fucked. So, and also making it a sprint event. So much, they can't go wrong.
Fuck, I think now all the fun starts at the game, so I'm a bit sad actually, but or very sad. But it is what it is, you know?
Pretty much how it's gonna be. I had to really do something incredible for me to even get through to the top 10. So I sent it and I got a penalty at the end and it knocks me out, so that's it. I probably had to make it into that second round in order to stay in the top 10 and move on, so yeah, went for it, made a mistake at the end. That's the way she goes. Sprinting's not my thing, but I think it could have been done different. But I guess it is what it is. It's changing. Gotta accept it.
Yeah. It would be nice for the top 15 after this one or something.
I think we should be top 10 until the end of today, or top 20 until the end of today, and then cut to 10 for the last day. It sucks to be on the receiving end of it, but it's the way it is too. It's exciting. Like, that's the way tournaments work. Like, you can be a favorite and you make a mistake and you're out, and that's life, right? Like, that's just how the sport's gonna be now. But yeah, so I don't know. We have to grow with that, but it just, a lot depends on the order of the events. You know, like if your best event came up just now, you make it into the top 10 and you're safe for 5 more events with no cuts. Yeah. But if your worst event came up now, you're cut and you could have 5 wheelhouse workouts coming up and be a podium threat and you never get a chance.
So clearly some of the top names, some guys who have been around quite a long time and have performed consistently well, pretty critical of how things were, and it's understandable given the way things have played out.
Yeah, and I guess it's hard for us because theatrically it's a great show, but it's whether it's a test of the fittest on earth, and that's what we're here to find. Like we were saying earlier, they haven't got their hands on a barbell, but we just heard Dave Castro down in the athletes area announcing that a barbell will be tonight at the Coliseum. You have the events.
Yeah, so if you guys are on site or maybe online and haven't heard it yet, Dave Castro just announced the last 2 workouts for the individuals taking place in the Coliseum tonight. I'm going to read it out for you guys just real quick, and this is kind of, we heard this secondhand as well. 5 rounds for time, 1 pegboard, 100 double unders, 10 hang split snatches, we believe, with the dumbbell, and then 10 hang cleans with the dumbbell as well. So that may be a little off. We're just kind of getting it secondhand right now, but they'll finish the evening inside the Coliseum with a 1 rep max clean. We're going to have all the details for you in just a second. Be sure to be checking games.crossfit.com and morningchalkup.com for all of the details. We're going to wrap it up here at the Morning Chalk Up Show so we can go process what Dave Castro just announced. For Brittany Klein, I'm Tommy Marquez. Hopefully your athlete made it through, and if not, we'll see you guys later to wrap everything up in the evening time.